Let's play some hockey tonight.
Energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gouche.
Yes, it is. Welcome to another episode of Gouche Live right here at the Bottom Line, 22 Front Street, brought to you by those good people at the Hockey News, of course, Sports Illustrated, and our good friend, Wayne Cowley. And you know what's great about this show? My producer, Jordan LaRoche, goaltender. We're going to be talking to one of my favorites, one of the guys that I remember back, I think it was 2006, if I'm not mistaken. He backstopped the Oilers almost to a Stanley Cup. Certainly wasn't his fault. Dwayne Rolson's going to join us in a second. But Wayne Cowley says hello. He's not at the bar. He'd be here personally. Here he is, the producer, Jordan LaRoche.
Good.
How cool is this to have another goaltender?
No, I mean, a great guest, first off, a very long NHL career. And I mean, I didn't know too much about him before.
Well, you are too young is what you're trying to...
Maybe.
I'm old.
But I also didn't grow up in North America, so
right,
it's really hard
course.
for me to watch hockey and follow hockey. But the 2011 Eastern Conference Finals, it was Game 7 against the Boston Bruins. That was the year they went on to win Stanley Cup with Tim Thomas. But that Game 7 was just one of my first full hockey games watching, and I learned a lot about just the hockey in general from that game. And Dwayne Roloson almost had the shutout. It was a 1-0 loss, but no, it's still a remarkable game.
Well, he's right. He's right in the middle, young, old, and medium. So I'm really looking forward to this. Obviously, we want to thank Terry Rivard for putting this together and getting a gentleman that was a Hobey Baker Award nominee. Didn't get drafted, but got the opportunity to sign with Calgary in 1994 as a free agent. Let's talk to him. He's here, Dwayne Roloson.
Hey, guys.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us. Of course, I've got Jordan joining me, of course, as the producer. You're going to give me all the goaltender lingo. I played forward, so I don't really get your guys' mindset. I just tried to figure out how to score on you guys. Didn't do it successfully over in North America. Got lucky when I played in Germany, but certainly always a pleasure to talk goaltending. Listen, you had an illustrious career, played well over 600 games, National Hockey League, 227 wins. But this is the stat that I understand best. Goals against average, 2.72. Be right in the lines of a top goaltender here today in the National Hockey League. But his save percentage at .908 is very good. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I mean, I think the way that the goaltending has become over the last decade or so, it has definitely the general save percentage, at least the top end, has increased. But a 908 is very, very respectable.
So, Dwayne, as we get into the, obviously you played for a couple of teams. I mentioned right off the bat the Calgary Flames, but I do remember it was 2006. Would like to hear from you, obviously, as you know, a Hobey Baker Award nominee, and then not getting drafted and getting the opportunity to sign with Calgary. Can you walk us through those earlier days and how obviously the game has changed a bit for goaltenders?
Yeah, for sure. Coming out of college, I didn't go into university until I was 20. So I didn't come out until I was 24. And believe it or not, I was a stand-up skate save goalie when I came out of college. So my first little bit of pro was tough. Trying to convert from the stand-up skate save guy into what I sort of took as becoming a hybrid type of goalie. I had Rolly Melanson as my goalie coach, and we spent a lot of time on the ice together, and there's a lot of French swearing at me and English swearing at him, and out of frustration because I couldn't do something or didn't understand what he was trying to get me to do. And that was the first transition for goalies really during that time, where guys were more in control, and that evolved over my career. And now the game's totally changed. The way the goalies play now compared to what even when I played, and I finished playing it in 2012. So it's not that long ago, but it is long. But you guys touched on numbers earlier. I think when I signed my first contract, I got a bonus if I was over 890 in the save percentage, and I got a bigger bonus if I was over 9. You know, so now it's like if you're just over 9 or at 908, your numbers aren't good enough to be a starter in the NHL. So it just goes to show how the game's evolved, how the defensive side of the game is really important compared to the wide open style of game that the Grant Fuhrs and the guys before me played, and in my era, how it was a lot more open game.
Hey, listen, I want to do a shout out to Eric. Thank you for joining us. Of course, Ian Grant Cobb. Yes, the goaltender. We're going to talk about this a little bit. Mentally toughest position. I'm not sure I'm going to. If you're a goal scorer and you ain't goal scoring, you're in trouble too. I think there's a lot of problems there. And if you're a goalie and you're letting them in, of course, it'll be a tough one. And of course, Tino Stutzgarten, thank you for joining us all the way from Germany. He remembers you playing. It was actually his first World Hockey Championships. He didn't play. He was a big fan in Germany of some of the teams I played, always on the show. Remembers you in 1995 where you won a bronze medal in Stockholm. We talked off camera a little bit. We'll talk about your international career as we go through this, but I really want to get back to you, Jordan and Dwayne, about that transition for a goaltender, because you talked about the stand-up. They went to obviously to the butterfly and the double stacks. Was the equipment changing also at that time? Was there an evolution of the goaltending pad getting smaller? Because in the old days, with the Johnny Bauer type, certainly couldn't stop pucks with those today.
Yeah, for me, my first year in Calgary playing with the Flames, it was complete renovation of the goalie gear. That's when they started cutting everything down. It was funny because Brian's was a goalie pad company, made maybe a set of pads with reversing C's on them. Like, there's actually a hockey card of them. I never wore Brian's, but they're trying to get me to wear the gear. So they ended up sending me pads that summer, and I'm in camp and pads are huge. And Dave Dryden comes in, who was monitoring goalies, just talked about all the changes that they're making. And so he measures my pads. My pads were like 14 inches, like 2 inches over what the standard is. I'm like, well, maybe I guess won't be using those. And then he grabs my glove. He's like, oh, why don't you take the 2 inches off your pad and add it to your glove? Because I had a really small glove. It was almost like a third baseman's glove. So, but yeah, going through the changes and all that stuff was different. For me, I always had small gear anyway, so it didn't really bother me. It was actually like my glove, everything else I could go bigger with. So I didn't mind the change. Some of the other guys had some tough times with the changes, and but it's part of the game, and I'm glad that everybody's on a level playing field now. And as long as the goalies aren't getting hurt, and that was a big thing when they first went to blockers and the gloves, goalies were breaking fingers, and so I changed my blocker where it sat on my hand, so I didn't break any fingers, and my glove was I just did change the paddings around just a little bit, just so I didn't break a finger there.
Yeah, I think it was around the 2010, 2011 point. You made the switch to Warrior and actually wore Warrior's first ever line of goalie equipment that they ever made with the Messiah leg pads, the glove and the blocker. Who were you with before then, and why did you kind of take the risk to go with a Warrior product?
Wow, just to show it, the type of person I am. I'm pretty loyal to friends and equipment guys and people who helped me out. So when I was in university, Peter Marshall was my Bauer rep at the University of Lowell. So he's based out of Boston. So when I turned pro, I stayed with Bauer. And then I had some issues with I was backing up Dominic Hasek, so I played 14 games in 2 years there. So Bauer I wasn't a priority to them to get gear out. So I switched to Vaughn at that time, and then to iTech quickly, and then back to Louisville, and then the Warrior. So the common theme is Brad Jansen was Brad's a good friend.
A legend.
Yes. So I had Brad was my rep with TPS, and then with Louisville, with Louisville, and then Victoriaville at the time. They sort of bought each other out type of thing. I'm not sure who bought who out. And then Peter Marshall was Brad hired Peter Marshall, and then Brad sort of got out of the business, and Peter went to Warrior, so I switched to Warrior. So
Hey, listen,
it's a long story, but I
yeah.
I take care of my friends and people that treated me well. I wanted to treat them well. So
Brad's a legend. Like everywhere I go, every NHL All-Star game, the draft, you always get to see him, and he's such a classic. We've got people outside looking in on you, Dwayne. Front Street, obviously downtown Toronto. I wanted to say a shout out from Al Kerr. Wow, Rolly the goalie. What a great guest. Got him. Hey, listen, I wanted to give a little bit of shout out to some of your accolades too as we walk through your playing. East First All-Star Team, 1994, Hockey East Player of the Year, 1994, NCAA First All-American Team, another All-Star with the AIHL in 2001. This is a nice one, played in the NHL All-Star Game in 2004. So many great moments when you played in hockey in some of the games, of course. But the one that stands out for me, and I wanted to go there because you played with such a cast of crew players, of course, Captain Canada. We all know Ryan Smith, of course. But in that playoff, you were absolutely outstanding. You went 12-5 through the first three rounds. And had you guys won the Stanley Cup that year, it was very likely you would have been the Conn Smythe.
yeah, unfortunately, that's hindsight. I got hurt in game one, and so it's unfortunate that once I got traded there, we had set out a goal to win our last game of the year, and unfortunately, we weren't able to.
Well, sometimes we look back at things like that, not having the opportunity to win there, but being a part of that team. That team was a team with some really good characters. Talk to me a little bit about Ryan Smith, that no lose attitude, that give everything you got. Was he as crazy in the dressing room as he was on the ice?
No, Ryan was pretty quiet in the locker room. The reason why that team had so much success was how close our team was. Jason Smith was our captain, and Ryan, and then Chris Pronger and Ethan Morrow. All those guys have been, besides Prongs, had been in Edmonton for a long time. And the way they handle people and the way they treat people within that organization, it's remarkable. I got traded there and I made the team in San Jose. It was like I played there for the last 10 years. It was, I knew a couple guys, but I didn't know the whole team. But it was, everyone was there, very, very grateful that I was there, but also excited and very humbling how they sort of rallied around one another. And never block shots weren't a really big thing in Minnesota because Jock didn't really like our guys to block shots, but in Edmonton it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And Mac T wanted our guys to block shots, and to see guys rally around guys and being up on the bench when somebody blocks a shot, it was a big team that the team was so tight and close. I think a lot of it was the reason why we had so much success.
Well, I know that we'll get back to a little bit talking about equipment because there are some comments that are coming here. But before we do that, if you don't mind, Jordan, I'll leave you with the technical questions because I don't know the difference between 15 inches and 16 inches gloves and all that. So I'll leave that with you. I want to expand upon a little bit of obviously when you played in the National Hockey League and then the international game for a goaltender. I find it really fascinating when you go from playing in the National Hockey League in the smaller venues and then you played in Stockholm, you played in Bern, Switzerland, and you played in Moscow. You won a gold in Moscow. The transition from the actual playing surface, obviously Olympic size, How much of a uh, effort did you need to change when you went from being in an NHL smaller surface to a bigger surface? Were the angles different? Did it make your game better, or did you have to have challenges?
For me, it was a challenge. Even when, I'll touch on the European in a sec, but even when the NHL shrunk the neutral zone, it was challenging for me. I was more of an angle goalie. So I had to learn to be a little bit more patient when I moved. And, so that's just a small little change in the neutral zone. So imagine adding 15 feet on the sides and 100 feet or another 20 feet on the ends. It was a big difference for me. And, I really had to slow down my movements and not move as much as the puck moved. I was used to, on the smaller rinks, you move fast, you move quick, you try and get to a certain spot. On the bigger rinks, it's a lot more slower. It's almost like the Matrix when you're watching the guy dodge bullets. It's almost like that, where you got to slow down and sort of not overplay things. It's pretty easy to get off angle in the big rinks if you don't slow down.
Yeah, and I'd imagine just that's kind of how the essentially goalie style has changed. I mean, it kind of went from that stand-up style where you could be a little more free. You can come out a little more and challenge the puck, where on that bigger ice, challenging the puck gives up a lot more options for the offense to potentially move the puck around. And as we kind of went through that change with the equipment as well, which we'll get to in a little bit, how did that affect your game through those years?
Well, it affected it. I almost I almost didn't get another contract. So, it was a lot of time and a lot of change. Like, when you're used to moving a certain way and you're used to hitting your spots all the time, and when there's a big change like that and you start moving, and then all of a sudden I'm way off angle here. You guys get the whole net to shoot at. So, for me, it was tough. Because there was a lot of muscle memory that you had to retrain firing patterns to get to certain spots, and how much time, less time or more time you had to get in certain areas, and it was a lot of work. And that was the year I ended up getting traded to Edmonton, and Pete Peters had put lines on the ice for me, just for me to be patient and slow down and sort of get my spots. And it took a lot of time. It was, I got traded almost at the deadline, and that was February sometime. So it took me a while to get used to it. And once I got used to it, then I was fine. But it takes a lot of time to make certain changes, especially in season, to make certain changes. It's tough.
Hey, listen, a great question coming from Al Kerr. This is always a tough question because you played for several teams. And the question from him is, what was your favorite NHL team to play for and against?
Well, against was Toronto. I love playing against Toronto. So,
of course.
Yeah. So, but the play for every organization that I played for has a lot of pros and obviously cons, right? That's everyone. But I enjoyed every place I played. I played in Calgary, which is great. Then end up in Buffalo. Buffalo was awesome. I lived an hour and a half away, so we had off days. I can go back to the cottage and hang out for a day or whatever. And so my wife and I really enjoyed Buffalo. And we have Edmonton, Long Island on the stops there. So we and Minnesota, obviously Minnesota, can't forget them. I was there for 5 years, but every place was great. We enjoyed every stop we had, and then we're living in Tampa now in the wintertime, so I finished up my career there in Tampa, and we loved it there, and every place we stop, we have good family friends that we still keep in touch with, and so it's it's something that for us as a family that was tough on our kids moving around, but right now they're happy that they're able to see the world a little bit and see North America a little bit to enjoy, all the good things that come about moving.
Right. Jordan, just before, if you don't mind, I want to stay with the Tampa theme
Yeah, 100%.
here for a second, of course, ending up in Tampa. The only coach that I got cut from, the only coach in my career is a guy named Wayne Fleming. And one of my nicest people that I had the opportunity to be with. I know he coached you in Tampa Bay. Unfortunately, we lost him, of course, to cancer. But what an incredible guy. And now we see that one of your teammates, Martin St. Louis, is now coaching, obviously, for the Montreal Canadiens. First, talk to me about Wayne. He was such a nice human being, very statistically based, very black and white, very analytical, even back in those days.
Yeah, Wayne was awesome. It was every game day. I'd show up. It started when I first got traded there. We're going to Washington, and I don't know the systems. Like, I literally got there the night before, practiced quickly. We hop on the plane, go to Washington, show up the next day for pregame skate. So I get there, and Wayne's like, "Rolly, come here." Okay, am I in trouble? I just got here. How'd I get in trouble? He goes, "We're going to talk about PK." I said, "Okay." He said, "This is what they like to do. This is how we like to do it. Where do you want the puck to come from? Where do you want the shot to come from?" I said, "Well, Ovi." He's like, looked at me. He's like, "Ovi?" I said, "Yeah." Because if we eliminate those four guys, Ovi's not going to get a clean shot up. He goes, "I like the way you think." And that became a ritual. Every day that we had a game, it was like going over penalty killing. When Eric Brewer got there, between Eric and I, where's our pressure points? What do we want to do? How do we want to defend certain power play situations? So, I love talking hockey with Wayne, and Wayne's up there with Jacques Lemaire, with two smartest guys in hockey.
Unbelievable, yeah.
I have a lot of time and a lot of respect for what I learned from Wayne and how he handled himself. And yeah, he was a remarkable human being and just a great coach to play for.
Well, I got to just add to the fact that the reason why I got cut from him was University of Manitoba. Very, very technical coach. He knew everything, and he was like that. He'd call you into his room, and he'd do that. He'd get you all psyched up about. Unfortunately, I had a knee injury during training camp, and they couldn't sign me on the card. I have nothing but time and energy to talk about him. He's a phenomenal individual. Final part on the coaching part, Martin St. Louis, the transition from being a player to a coach. He's come in and he's basically got those guys believing in him because he is that type of guy. He's fair. He's no bar. He makes sure that you're accountable, but certainly gives you rope. How do you see that as far as a teammate now being a coach in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, fortunate. I have a few guys that have coached in the league, and they're there for a reason. Marty was a student of the game, and he would question coaches, and he would learn from coaches. He'd tell us stories about him and Torts going at it, about systems and structure and turnovers and all that stuff, right? So, and he loves Torts to death, and he's got a lot of his coaching style from Torts. He's gonna allow the players to play, but if you turn the puck over, make sure you get it back, type of thing. Don't just sulk and put your head down, and get back and get the puck back. And hey, it's a game of hockey. You're gonna make mistakes. It's how you react to the mistakes that you make. And Marty was that guy. He was a hard worker, so he's going to install the work ethic, and he's going to install parts of him into the team. And it's great to see, and I'm glad that he had success when he first got there, and hopefully he continues on having success.
And I'm going to take it back a little bit to the stop before you went to Tampa Bay, where you're with the New York Islanders. Your first year there was actually John Tavares' rookie season in the NHL. And I mean, for us being a Toronto located podcast, we hear everything under the sun about John Tavares, and some good, some bad. But what was kind of the buzz around Long Island and the team itself when you brought in John Tavares and that kind of rookie year that he had?
Yeah, Johnny's he's a great human being. He's a great person. If you've heard negative, I don't know where you heard it from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I have nothing but respect for John, and here's the type of kid he is. My kids were playing lacrosse in Long Island, which is a huge lacrosse area, field lacrosse, and
Yeah.
we get them some new lacrosse sticks, and they come down to the rink and they're goofing around at the arena with their sticks while we're practicing. Then guys come off the ice, Matt Molson and Johnny are coming off the ice, and next thing you know, they're grabbed both boys' sticks. They're working the pockets. They're playing catch with them. They're like, it's like John doesn't have to do that. He's 18 years old, but he was in heaven, like playing with the lacrosse stick and working the pocket with the boys and showing them how to extend the pocket, shrink the pocket, and teach them how to pick balls up. And like it was unbelievable. And that's the type of guy he is. He's just a great human being. He's a great mentor for the young kids, and he works hard.
And he was a great lacrosse player.
Yeah, a really really good lacrosse player. Matt Molson also. Matty was on that team. They're pretty tight, the two of them, and they're both lacrosse players. So that's why Johnny's good. His hands are so great, and he's a great guy or tough guy to play against, especially in practice when pucks are coming in. Next thing you know, he's getting a stick on it, tipping it here and there. I'm like, come on, Johnny. His hand-eye coordination was remarkable, and Johnny's awesome. And you know, it's when the Corey Perry hit. You know, I know they're great friends, and you know the type of person like that John is. Like he understood the game, he understood what happened, and you know, Corey. I know Corey well. Coach Corey, played against Corey enough. I know Corey was calling him that night, like he said in the interview. But you know, it's unfortunate, but you know, he respects people, and people respect him, and that's why he's a leader, and that's why, you know, for me, there's no negative. You know, whoever's speaking negative, they don't know the person. They don't know anything about the guy.
Hey, listen, it is Toronto, right? And you do not always get a fair shake here. He's not only a great hockey player. Yes, he's getting older, as we all do, and maybe some of your skills have gone down. He's still almost a point a game in the Toronto market, Dwayne, and he still gets criticism. You know, is he leading this team? Is he? Well, they've got Austin Matthews, they've got Mitch Marner, they've got other players around him that he helps elevate their games, and that's the only rub that I have with fans that maybe get a little too, especially in the, you tell you what, he's handled it with nothing but class.
No, 100%. And just what I was referring to was just the fans complaining about his on ice play, which if you're anyone in Toronto, it's bound to happen.
Yeah, I'm sure. Especially goalies. We are going to ask you before the night's out about the goaltender situation in Toronto. One of the questions I wanted to ask both of you guys, again, not being a goalie, the psyche of being a goalie and you're a backup, or let's say you're coming in, you're the rookie. I don't know the age difference. I think you're a lot younger than that guy has. Like I watched him, and his reaction time, he was unorthodox. What did you learn from him, or did you say, "Hang on a second, I don't want to play like him because it's really dangerous"?
Well, the thing is about Dom, I think he's got his master's in history. Like he's an extremely intelligent human being. Why Dom was so good is he was able to read the play. He was able to be 1, 2, maybe 3 steps ahead of the play. I remember one night we're in Dallas. The red line had just come out. Zubov comes around the net and hits Dave Gagne at the far blue line. As soon as the puck hit Gags' stick, Dom was right there, took him out. Like, you know, is that risky? Yeah, but he knew what was happening way before it was happening. You know, and that's why he had the success that he did. And And for what I learned from Dom, that's what I learned. I would ask him, and I was lucky. We became pretty good friends. I'd ask him, "What were you thinking? Why did you do that?" And he would explain. This is what I saw. This is what I was reading. And even though I only played, like I said earlier, 14 games in 2 years, I would I was able to use what he was talking about to further on my career. I was starting to use it in practice, starting to take reads, and instead of reacting, I was reading the play and sort of moving into the play on the reads that I was getting, and that helped me prolong my career later on, into my 40s.
And I did see a video with you where you're talking about some of the things that you picked up from Hasek, and one of the things was he used to kind of bat the puck with his blocker
That's right.
out to the middle of the ice. But I saw a couple of videos of you in Edmonton actually doing it with the paddle of your stick. Get a little more of the thought process behind that, and if it actually even worked.
Yeah, so, well, it did work, and it worked well. When I started doing it, it was just more or less to relieve pressure and not take whistles. So I did it one night in Minnesota. It was out of the blue. I forget, it was late in the game. We were up by one, and I did it. Jock comes to me after the game. Rolly, you missed that once. You don't do it again. So I made sure I never missed it. Actually, so in the playoffs that year, we're playing Vancouver. I had the puck, and the ref was it was in the second period. I actually hit it down, and Alexander Daggett cut across the middle, and I hit him tape to tape. And I think him and Mark Schwannard went in. It was the go-ahead goal. It was tied. We're down 2-0 early, and came back and ended up winning the game. But that the reason behind it, and the reason why Dom would do the blocker, he didn't want to take a whistle in our end, especially late in a period or late in the game, to generate some offense for the other team. So that was part of the reason, and I just started using it a different way, and because I wasn't very strong, so I used my stick as a baseball bat pretty much, and try to do it and knock pucks out of the zone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the stick would probably be a little more consistent than the blocker would. But was there any chance? Was there a situation where it didn't work out? Did that one case really just not happen where you told to never do it again?
Or you're saying maybe you knocked it in your own net?
Yeah.
No, I never knocked it in my own net. I did miss it during the lockout in Finland. I got a little quick with my stick, sort of hit it straight up in the air, and it landed right in front of that. Didn't end up in a goal against, but it was one of those.
That matters.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I was like, oh, geez, that's embarrassing. But it's part of the game. We all make mistakes, and fortunate I was able to carry on, and Jock never took it out of my game, and I'm sure Jock cringed every time I did it, and. But he was, like I said, he would thought outside the box as well. And once I explained what I was doing and why I did it, he's like, "Oh, that's why. Do it. Just don't make a mistake." So I got lucky.
Hey, listen, I know. Excuse me. We could talk for hours because I know goaltenders could talk about it. We really respect the time that we got with you. When Terry Rivard said, "Hey, I can get you Dwayne Roloson," we jumped at the opportunity. So I know that you're a very busy guy. So I wanted to end the show with this. I wanted to get two things. One, if you could tell us one of the players that you had a bunch of fun with over the years, and now you're still best buddies. And is it a goalie? Do goalies hang out together? Are you guys? Is it a fraternity, or do you actually have friends? Maybe a defenseman who took care of you during your career, or maybe it's a forward who scored a bunch of goals so you could lose a game 7-6.
Yeah. Hockey world is very small. So like right now I'm up at Lake State working, and Mike York's up here. He's assistant coach up here.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of great friends, a lot of great memories, and especially on teams that won. Like, I can call Marty, I can call Stammer. I don't want to bother those guys because they're busy right now. But to pick up a phone and talk to somebody, it's very easy especially on teams that you won with. And for me, the closest buddy at the NHL level is probably Andrew Burnett, him and I hung out a
Yeah,
lot together,
nice
and
guy.
Darby Henderson, another guy. That we hang out, and then Philip Kuba, he's actually still in Tampa. He's coaching junior, so I play hockey with him every Thursday morning in Tampa. So, those guys were close buddies in Minnesota, and we hung out a lot and did a lot of stuff together. And obviously, every stop you make, you have a good friend there, and you carry on a relationship with as your career moves on or as you retire. So the hockey world, it's for the fans, it's a great living, right? They see the money, they see how much you make, but the biggest thing is your family. My kids, they went to 10 different high school or 10 different schools, both of them, and it's tough on them. So being able to spend quality time at home is key as well. And our wives they're pretty much stay-at-home moms. They're doing everything. They got to get the kids to school. They got to get them to hockey or whatever sport they're playing, or dance or gymnastics. If they have girls, like they're like a single parent throughout the hockey season. So a lot of credit goes to the wives who behind the scenes are doing everything and anything to get the kids and get their husband or whoever else off to a certain spot or get them fed. It's remarkable, and it's a remarkable job that they all do. And hats off to every wife that's married to a pro hockey player, because if it wasn't for them, their careers are a lot shorter.
I can't agree with you more. And I think a lot of times as fans, we tend to forget the human element. That you wake up in the morning and maybe one of your kids don't feel well and you've got to go and play in front of 20,000 people. There's a lot of psyche, especially, you as a goaltender, they're relying on you to be the buck stuff. I wanted to, before you ask your final question, my final question is this. Obviously, the game has changed quite drastically. And I think the biggest position, I know we talk about the Cale Makars of the world, now what he's transcending as far as a defenseman goes. But as a goaltender, from your day to today, what would be the one or two things that have changed drastically that maybe the average fan wouldn't know, but as a goaltender, you can see that transition from when you played to where it is today?
Well, now every goalie they're making saves on their knees, and they're down a lot more than what it was when I played. And the trend is now all these weird surgeries that you see goalies having, hips and labrums in their hips and all this stuff. A lot of it is because of everything they're down on. You go to a rink and see this, reverse HV as they call it, where the guys are sort of sliding, they're down and sort of bent over backwards, leaning against the post. And, for me, I'm like, why are we doing this? You're only complicating things. It's, I get it. It's designed for one play only in a game that happens, maybe once or twice a game. Why not stay on your feet and have some power and maybe save your body so you're not having a surgery later on.
Good point.
And the speed, like the guys now, the speed of the game now, the goalies have to adjust a lot quicker, and so they got to move a lot quicker, a lot more efficient. You don't see goalies playing on the goal line as much as it was in the past. Once the butterfly came in, and so you're starting to see the transition almost back to the 60s and 70s, where the goalies were more playing at the top of the paint and moved well. Now you're starting to see that transition back to goalies moving well. And, you got a big guy like Freddie Anderson, who I had in Anaheim, 6'4" goalie who played in Toronto, who moves very well. You get a guy like that moves well and plays at the top of the paint. It's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah.
So that's where you see the trend going with some of these guys. And then, for me, the trend is bigger goalies. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? For me, if I'll take a 5'10" goalie, like as long as they're stopping pucks for me, I don't really care. So size doesn't matter, but a lot of GMs are putting a don't bring me a 6'2" goalie. Anybody under 6'2". I want somebody over 6'2". And is there any merit to it? Well, I think Matt Murray,
Saros?
Yeah.
Vasilevsky's over.
What's it?
Vasilevsky.
He's a shorter guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vasilevsky's over 6'2". Matt Murray was over 6'2", and before that was Ken Dryden. So, so there you go for there you go. For me, it's as long as the guys are stopping pucks and where the game's going. But that's what I see in the game, how the goaltending position is evolving, is movements and position play.
Eric says size doesn't matter, skill matter. And you are a very skilled goaltender. All right, Jordan, I know you got your final point, your final question.
Just quickly, the last thing. Who's your favorite goalie to watch right now?
Great question.
Yeah.
I'm a little biased because I coach them both, so I like to watch Gibby and Freddie. Because I coach them, or I have a vested interest in them and like watching them play. And if I get a call from Freddie will call every once in a while about positional play or something that's going on in the game, I want to make sure I'm ready for it. But obviously, I'm just a fan right now. I love watching Vass. I love watching Saros. I love watching any goalie out there. The guys in New York, on both teams, they're awesome. Like, it's just, for me, it's fun to watch. So last year was, a little biased as well. I love Smitty, and I hope Smitty was going to be able to make some magic there in Edmonton. I played with him in Tampa, and being an older guy and going down the same road that I went down, I wanted to be support for him. And so, for me, I just love watching guys and watching how the game's being played and how the guys are dealing with how the game's changed, how they're transitioning and how they're moving and what's going on. So for me, it's just, I'm a big fan and I just love watching hockey.
All right. Cup favorite. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup? Is Vasilevsky going to come back? Is Shesterkin going to lead the New York Rangers? Or does Freddie Anderson win it in Carolina? You go first, Jordan.
I've been sticking with this all off season. I'm saying Carolina.
Carolina? Dwayne, we won't hold you to it, but we'll come back to you and see if you're right later on.
There's a lot of good choices out there, but, I'm going to go with Jordan there with Freddie, and hopefully he has another great year and he stays healthy, and you never know what can happen.
Dwayne, we can't thank you enough for taking some time out. It's been almost 45 minutes. It feels like we could stay on here for a couple more hours. Thank you for taking time out with us. Terry, thank you for getting us such an incredible guy. We really look forward to getting you back on the show as the season gets on, and then we can just see how Freddie's doing, how Vasilevsky's doing. I know Shesterkin. And, of course, I need my Hellerbuck to come back and be Vezina winner so that the Winnipeg Jets can at least make the playoffs this year and go deep again.
Yeah, Connor was a UMass Lowell grad, so I had spent some time with Connor, so I watch him a lot, and I'm happy for him. I wouldn't surprise me if he has a bounce back here. That's for sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Dwayne Roloson, thank you so much taking time with us, bud. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Dwayne. You too.
Nice guy, calming.
Really nice guy.
Very calming. Obviously, that's how he played. You wouldn't know that he was at his time in playing in Edmonton that 2006 series. It was all run and gun, and he was phenomenal. But we saw that that's what goalies are about now, right? Yep. It's that mental part of the game that keeps you. You need that equal like you need to be an equal. You can't be that today's game. You can't take the highs too high and the lows too low.
Exactly. And I did have a hard time with that throughout my whole career, really. I mean, there's some extra stuff away from the rink I couldn't keep really control. But no, I mean, I was very happy sitting here listening to Dwayne. Maybe
if we had him as a coach, we could have made it to the National Hockey League.
Maybe.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here at Gooch Live. Of course, we're here at the bottom line. Come and check it out. We are a slap shot away from the Hockey Hall of Fame, of course. And just down the street, Jordan and I just watching the Toronto Maple Leafs take on the Ottawa Senators in the pregame. Very exciting hockey. You Wednesday at noon when we do lunch with Gouche and friends.
You've been listening to Gouche Live with your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as The Gouche, brought to you by the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.